So now I have to speak sensibly. I've got, let's see here.
How you doing, Nathan?
All right, greetings, everybody. I've got 1:32. I'll try not to keep you any longer than usual and less as possible, which I'm sure most people will appreciate. It's nice to see everybody on the call. We've got some things that I want to share with you, but I'll wait till the end. That way I can keep myself short and allow everybody else that's planning to share with us today on task. Today's theme is expanding our reach. And you could say that we've been talking about that all along, really. You could talk about any of these things from week to week, and they would all apply in certain ways, I would think. But today we're talking mostly about expanding our reach in the sense of changing what is the usual complexion of our clubs. And that is going to be done here, hopefully in the future 13 months in ways that are additional to those that we've done in the past. I don't see our governor on the call yet. She may be joining us. If not, I can elaborate on some of those differences as we go. But we've got some great folks that are planning to share with us today. Without further ado, I want to give the screen, so to speak, to our current and forthcoming alumni coordinator for the district. He's a founding member of the E-Club. He's a Morgantown kid like me. And with that said, I will turn things over to discuss Rotary alumni with Rick Falunas.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. Can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Pretty much everybody, I think, knows who the alumni are. However, indulge with me a little bit, and I'll talk just a little bit about it. A lot of people do ask about, who are alumni? And I still see questions out there. People say, well, if I did this, does that make me, an alum or an alumnus or an alumna or what? First question is, how many people have seen this pin on anybody's collar or lapel or anything? Anybody seen that?
No.
Focus too well. It says Rotary alumni, and believe it or not, there are pins out there for people who have participated in a Rotary Foundation program. And if you've participated in one or more, we have a number that have participated in more than just one program. But that means anybody who's participated in a foundation program known as the Ambassadorial Scholars, the Grants to University Teachers, Group Study Exchange, Interact, Rotaract, Rotary Peace Fellowships, Rotary Scholarships, Rotary Volunteers, Rotary Youth Exchange, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, otherwise known as RILA. So anyone who's participated in one of those programs, either a Rotarian, example would be someone who was a team leader for a GSE, or non-Rotarians who might have been members on a GSE team, or might have been a Rotaractor or an Interactor, or a volunteer. And that does not necessarily mean all Rotarians. However, any of them are eligible to and are considered to be alumni. So if you have participated in one of those programs, the first thing that you would need to do, or anyone you know who has participated in one of those programs, is to go into Rotary.org, into My Rotary, and update your profile. So that it does show that you were a participant in one of those programs. That being the case, then you are officially recognized by Rotary International as an alum, and then I have a chance to follow up with you and to help interact with you as part of the district with alumni. Now, in that regard, just some numbers. Since Rotary's been keeping track of the alumni, we can see that there are more than 500 Rotary Foundation alumni who have been either sponsored by or hosted by a Rotary Club in District 7545. I've got records that go all the way back to 1966 for an ambassadorial scholar, and records that go up to this year for instance, some Rotary actors who are considered alumni. Of that 500, about 34% of them, or 169, actually reside in our geographic district area. So that means that we potentially can reach out to a number of those for whom we have information. Now, I have to qualify that. There are some in there that I know perhaps are no longer with us and the records have not been updated. Or some who have even moved out of town, but it's still are out of the district, but they're still listed as being in our district because their Rotary, my Rotary has not been updated. But of those 169 who are listed as residing in our district, only 28 of them are actually Rotarians. So now think about that. There's the potential to reach out to more than 500 people who have been sponsored by a Rotary Foundation program or hosted by a Rotary program in our district, and only 28 of them have become Rotarians. So that's a huge opportunity for us. So one of the questions is, what are we going to do about that? Well, one of the things that we're talking about doing, in fact, I expect before the end of this week, we'll officially make application for a charter from Rotary International to have a Rotary Foundation Alumni Association in our district. There are about 80 of those worldwide in about 30 different countries. So really not very many. But we will, as far as I understand, we will qualify to have a charter of Rotary Alumni Association associated with the geographic area of our district. Now, in that regard, well, what does a Rotary Alumni Association do? Well, its whole purpose really is to network and link people who've been part of a Rotary Foundation program with the present clubs and the district in our area. So that would be the intent. There is no fee, no charge to be a member of the Alumni Association. At this point, we have about 17 people, about half, I know not evenly, but I think about 8 of them are Rotarians and 9 of them are not Rotarians, who have said that they would like to be part of the Alumni Association. And that is only limited by the contact that I've been able to have up to this point. We wanted to have a good core, a good number of people to be part of the charter membership of the association before we actually sent in our application. The application includes a draft constitution to become the Alumni Association. That has been accomplished and reviewed by a very competent attorney who also happens to be our governor, governor-elect. So we should be really in good shape there. And that will be going forward, we hope, this week. We should hear in the not too distant future that we are officially another alumni association. Now, what are the things that we're going to do with that? Any number of things. Part of it I'm going to turn to you all for some input and feedback and some help. One would be if any of you are interested in reaching out to alumni who might be in your area, just drop me a line. And I can get you a list of any alumni who appear to be in your area. I say appear to be, the RI records suggest that these are alumni in your area. Now, what does that mean that you can do? Well, one of the things is they're just open for opportunity to come and speak to your club. They could be a speaker about the Rotary, about their participation in a Rotary Foundation program. So you could have, for instance, I know I led a GSE team to Brazil. And I spoke to a number of Rotary clubs in my area about that trip back in 2000 down to Brazil. We've had youth exchange students come and speak about their experience in their own area or in other locations. We've had ambassadorial scholars come and speak about their experience overseas for years. as part of the Ambassadorial Scholar Program. So they can also be speakers for you. They can also help you when we get the Youth Exchange Program back and going, whenever we get as we continue to expand the Rotaract program, which you're going to hear about later, to youth in your area. The RILA program. We have a number of RILA students, graduates, who are part of and are going to be active members in our Alumni Association. We have a number of them, 6 of them, who have already signed up. As you know, they're not Rotarians yet because they don't yet qualify, but they are alumni and are primed to be people we turn to become part of Rotary activities. Now, other things you can do other than having them come to speak is to invite them to participate in your service projects. Help to expand your service projects. They're familiar with Rotary. Invite them to be part of your programs in that regard and in your area. We are going to do a number of things centrally as we do the Alumni Association. We will have a Rotary International discussion group. There is only one other one, by the way, one other alumni association in the world that is a discussion group at Rotary International. That happens to be the Rotary Association in Nigeria. So I'm hoping it will be the second one that will have a discussion group that will be global. I'm hoping that we can reach out to people who are not in our geographic region to also be part of the Alumni Association from where they are. For instance, I have plans for invitations of people in Chile, in Brazil, in Japan, all people who I know because I've personally been involved with them in a Rotary Foundation program, inviting them to become part of our Alumni Association and continue that link with West Virginia and with our district. So we'll be doing that. We also have other kinds of social media presence. We hope to have a Facebook either page and or community where there can be networking and exchange in that regard. We anticipate having a couple of meetings, at least physically. One would hope that we'll be able to meet the next time that we have a district conference, that we'll be able to meet as alumni. We hope to have perhaps even one more physical gathering as an alumni association. We also anticipate the possibility of having Zoom meetings, just like this, where we would get alumni together in that sense. The other thing that we're planning on is Rotary International does a Reconnect Week in October. The week has not yet been defined, but is usually the first or second week in October. It provides a perfect opportunity for you and your clubs to recognize alumni, to invite alumni to your meetings, to invite your members to reach out to those who they might know who are alumni, and begin to reconnect with them. As Sean noted in his announcement today of this meeting, talking about how our programs can interact and how they feed each other. You can imagine in terms of the impact on public image. It's an example of what Rotary is doing internationally in terms of the Peace Program, because we do have a couple of Peace scholars, fellows, who are in our region, who have been in our region, one very close to our region, that can be an example of a Rotary program in that sense. Scholarship programs, youth development programs, youth exchange programs, group study exchange programs, interaction with other cultures, are all examples that we can utilize as we reach out to describe what Rotary is about and what Rotary does. Membership, here's a perfect opportunity. While I don't use this phrase often, but it's time to give back. You know, Rotary's invested in you. Rotary enabled you to be part of its programs and encouraged you. And we want to encourage you that perhaps it wasn't time yet for you to be part of Rotary, but certainly there is more of an opportunity now to become part of Rotary, either as the Alumni Association member or in terms of the clubs themselves. Service projects, I mentioned reach out to Rotary alumni in your area and invite them to become part of your service project, community project in that sense. So given that as an introduction and kind of an idea of the kinds of things that we hope to be doing over this next year, I'd open it up to answer any questions that people might have.
I have a brief question.
Sure.
What was the number again of the charter members? How many are Rotarians?
About, I think I have 6 of them, 6 or 7 are Rotarians. As I look at the list at this point, Rotary International suggests, well, the focus should really be on non-Rotarians. I believe in a balance. I think we need to have Rotarians. I think we need to have Rotarians and people who are participants in the whole number of programs. We're looking at actually having a chapter for RILA, so that there will be a Rotary Alumni Association at the district level. But then also at the district level, we're hoping that there will be a chapter for RILA participants. Nothing keeps us from doing a chapter for group study exchange or for youth program or Rotaract, where they might get into a smaller group and feel more comfortable in a smaller group, more collegial in terms of their activities or their interactions or that kind of thing. Obviously, service projects. I'd love to have a service project that does not have to necessarily be so geographically focused. I know that being part of the E-Club, for instance, we have programs that anyone can participate from wherever they are. Some of our literacy programs or book programs, such as Operation Paperback, where our members come together and send books to Operation Paperback for reading material to our troops wherever around the world. So there are ways that you can participate, even though it's not necessarily only geographically focused. So that, therefore, I'm hoping that we can certainly communicate interactively without being geographically local or proximate.
If I could, just for purposes of feedback from presidents-elect, if you're starting to kind of feel like how all these things go together with public image and service projects and youth services and all those things, could you just kind of like give a thumbs up or a head nod or like, yes, Mr. Governor-elect, you haven't completely brainwashed us. We understand how all this fits together. We're so thankful to have had all these calls over the past 10 weeks. And all right, yeah, see, everybody's all right. The proverbial Kool-Aid's starting to take effect a little bit. That's great. I'm glad to see that. Well, if no one else has any other questions for Rick, thank you. You are certainly the right man for the job, and I'm glad to get you to see you in a place where you're able to excel with the strengths that you have in representative of this district. You're a valuable member to the district and its team, and I can't thank you enough for everything you've already been doing. I'm glad to see that, you know, poking the bears back in January, February, like we started doing, has really turned out to be beneficial to everybody. I appreciate you.
Thank you much for the opportunity.
And with that said, I'll take volunteers for who wants to go next. Rick touched on youth services and RILA, and he also talked about Rotaract as well. Dennis, Becky, I'll let you decide who would like to go next. That's entirely up to you. All right, everybody stays muted. That doesn't help me at all. You gotta.
Okay, here I am. I don't mind. I can go next. Dennis doesn't. I can't see Dennis. So. What did Dennis say?
Go ahead.
Okay.
The screen is yours, Miss Hunt.
I'm muted. Okay. All right. Am I unmuted? You can hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we now have a Rotaract District Committee. And here's why. I was part of the effort last year, well, in the fall, to get a community Rotaract, the first in the district, started in Morgantown. And I won't go into that except to tell you it was incredibly easy to do, and I did not think it would be. But in doing that, you know, we all started looking at what Rotary requires. One of the things that Rotary requires, if you have more than 2 Rotaract clubs in your district, you are supposed to have a district Rotaract committee. I was unaware of us ever having one of those. Maybe we did way back when. But, you know, my first reaction was, good heavens, are we ever behind? Well, that's not the case. We are actually among the forefront. Most districts do not have this committee. But Sean made me aware of a woman named Alexandra Ritchie in District 7600, I believe, Eastern Virginia, includes Richmond. And he said, you need to talk to her. And so I did. And she was very anxious to, and we got together on something called Google Hangout, which I'd never heard of, but I have it. I guess you have it if you have Google. And that worked just fine. It's kind of like Zoom. Alexandra is in her mid-30s. She is just obsessed with Rotaract and with putting it on the map, not just in 7600, but in the USA. And she has created something called an Ascension MDIO, Multi-District Information Organization. I'm a long-time Rotarian. I'd never heard of that either. But it is basically, it's brand new. It is a way for the districts to collaborate and exchange information on Rotaract, on their Rotaract committees, what they're doing. It's a wonderful idea. She already has the bylaws, the Constitution. We have our first legislative meeting on June 15th via Zoom. So there's more to come on that. It's basically a networking vehicle. But as for our committee, there are 5 people on it. And let me back up a little bit. We have currently 5 college university clubs and 1 community club. One of my biggest goals is to get at least 2 more community clubs in this coming year, but I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. We have Bluefield State, Marshall, Fairmont State, Davis and Elkins, and a brand new, not really even chartered yet, but the organization is there. Is that a question or a no? We have a brand new club at WVU Parkersburg. And we had a club at Concord. It just recently went defunct, but they assure us they think once school is back in session, they can put that back together again. Now, the interesting thing is, and Sean was instrumental in getting the Fairmont Club, which is also new. That club kind of rose from the ashes of what was the International Student Association, which just kind of went by the wayside. That is primarily an international club. Now, when the other advisors found out about that, like light bulbs went off and they said, wow, that's something we didn't think about. Rotary in some foreign countries is so much stronger. They probably have kids at their school with a Rotary background and they don't even know it. So I think they will be exploring that as well. The good thing about WVU Parkersburg is they have a lot of 2-year programs. They have 4-year as well. But in those 2-year programs, they have a lot of non-traditional students. And their advisor said some of those students are in the club. So they've got a very different makeup. So we have kind of an interesting district in who's in it. Now, the committee at this point is made up of Mike Bell from Davis and Elkins. He is an adjunct professor. He explained not his day job, but he is affiliated with D&E. Rebecca Pack in the Huntington Club, and she is the advisor to the Marshall Club. I'm the chair by default mostly. Lolly Caston, who is from Spain and is now in Spain. She is the president of the Fairmont Club. She's a freshman, so I think we'll have her for a while. And then Adam Racy, who is the president of the Morgantown Community Club. I wanted representation of that club because I want more of those clubs. I would love to have that in Charleston, in Huntington. Huntington can have a Marshall Club and a community club in Wheeling. I think you need a little bigger area, but we need more of those. While we were forming the club in Morgantown last fall, the rules changed. There is a current Rotaract International Committee that is taking a hard look at Rotaract. They have elevated their status already, but they're not done making changes. While we were doing that club, and we thought, and we were right, the minute you turn 31, you're out. Well, they changed the rule last October while we were putting it together. You're not out. They still define it as young adults, but they don't define what a young adult is. It is a lot easier, I think, to go from late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s to a Rotary club than it is to go to a Rotary club and you've just graduated from college. So, that's one reason I want those community clubs. I think in terms of bringing them into a traditional Rotary club, which might be a misnomer anyway. I'm not sure we're going to know exactly what that is anymore. I think we have a better chance. Now, I joined Rick's organization because I thought, whoa, if he's putting all the alumni together, we're going to have a good many 20-something alumni. Those people are prime targets for helping us start a Rotaract, community Rotaract club, plus just the membership possibilities there. Let me see if I haven't. Oh, the purpose of the district committee, the most important thing I haven't said yet. It is not to oversee, it is not to legislate, it is purely to get communication between the Rotaract clubs, to give them a better sense of who and what Rotary is. We find in many cases that's lacking. Alex told me when she started contacting the Rotaract clubs in her district, one club thought they were part of the Greek organizations. They had no idea they were part of Rotary. I don't think we do a great job informing them about Rotary. And so part of what we do too will hopefully be to give some guidance to Rotary clubs who are sponsoring as to what they might do to better establish those ties. In talking to the advisors initially, and I talked to all of them, they felt communication between these Rotaract clubs, especially at the college level, would be a huge step forward, because they said they don't really have a sense of belonging to a larger group. And that's important. In other districts that have already done this, one thing that they tend to really like is some kind of project that they can all take part again, something that applies to each of their communities. The other element would be eventually some kind of training and get together for them. We're at a bit of a disadvantage because our district assemblies are in the summer. Most of them aren't here. Our conferences tend to be for many kids when they're having final exams or are gone. So we're going to have to work on that a little bit, but we're in our infancy. The first thing we'll do, and I have been told by the advisors, don't even try this when they aren't at school, because at the college level, they're stressed trying to go to school and not be in a school setting. But we will do a survey and get feedback on what they want. So that's kind of the highlights. Any questions at all?
Can I add a comment to that?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, let me tip the hat where it's due. Our incoming assistant governor in Region 6, Jeff Matheny, who's on this call, it's his daughter who I believe was very instrumental in seeing that WVU Parkersburg Rotaract Club happen. So I want to give the Matheny family thanks
Yes.
publicly for being involved in that. The other couple of things I would add is you just mentioned at the tail end of what you were saying about opportunities for those groups to come together. Alex, I believe, and I don't mean to steal anybody's thunder, if I am, her Ascension meeting, she's going to put on a zone-wide inaugural meeting of all these different Rotaract clubs and factions. And we're going to be blessed that it's going to be somewhat local to us. And the keynote speaker for that first one is going to be then International President Holger Knock from Germany, is my understanding. So that's a huge benefit to us geographically. The other thing is, assuming we're able to have a district conference in person next year, and even if it's has to be, relegated to a Zoom, we're going to have one. The international convention that was supposed to be in Hawaii this year is of course canceled, and it's going virtual the week of June the 20th. So we will have been able to see how that type of event can be pulled off electronically. So one way or another, we're going to have a district conference, whether it be in person or in this fashion. But I think Alex Ritchie is going to appear either in person at our district conference, or we're going to pipe her in through Zoom, whichever. And we're also going to have part of our conference. My plan is to have part of our district conference catered towards Rotaract and the youth involved in our organization as well. So, they're a part of this. Council on Legislation last fall made it clear that they want Rotaract to be a lateral move and not a vertical one to the ranks of Rotary. They're not counted as official Rotarians for obvious reasons of not skewing our numbers or anything, but they're as much a part of this as the rest of us, and I think they should be a part of all of our district events moving forward. So, with that said, anybody have any questions for Becky, or think of any others for Rick along the way, perhaps? Well, then let's ask that the proverbial icing on the youth cake come forward and take the floor, if you would. If for those of you who don't know, he's our district treasurer. He's our district youth services chair. He's a very good friend to me. He's helped me along the way as in his role as a past district governor. He'll tell you it was back when dirt was invented. I assure you it wasn't that long ago. And he's just a good guy and a great resource and a wonderful addition to our district. Dennis, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that, and look forward to this upcoming year with you as district governor. It's going to be exciting, I think. If you wonder what kind of shirt I'm wearing today, this is my actual RILA shirt that was put together for me by one of our youth exchange students when they came to a RILA conference. So it kind of combines both programs that I'm going to talk about, and all into one shirt. On the materials that you received from Sean and Julie on pages 78 and 79, there's a lot of information there on both the youth exchange and on the RILA conference. And I'll start by talking about the Rotary Youth Exchange first. And in our district, we are a part of a larger multi-district organization called Ohio Erie. And it includes 12 districts from Ohio, Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, West Virginia, and Florida. So we've all joined together, these 12 districts, and we have this organization called Ohio Erie. Most of our meetings take place in Columbus, and although we do travel to some other places for meetings of the organization itself. The good thing about having a multi-district organization like that is that it would almost be impossible, I think, to run an organization with the contacts overseas, with the contacts with the Department of State, with the contacts with whoever you were going to use for travel. The good thing is we can share a lot of that information. We can share a lot of that burden among many individuals who know people in various districts overseas, who have made many contacts, who have traveled to those places, and also people who have dealt with the Department of State. One of my good friends in the Ohio Erie multi-district is my twin. He looks a lot like me, so he's a very good-looking fella. His name is Fred, and he is the country contact, as an example, for Germany. And his family came from Germany. He knows several people in Germany and speaks fluent German. So when we have a student who goes to Germany, if there is any kind of problem while they're there, if there's any kind of issue that needs sorted out with the district over there, we can always get in touch with somebody like him, and Fred can take care of those issues. That would almost be impossible to handle on a district level. So it's very good to have this multi-district. We do have country contacts, and we have contacts all over Europe, Asia, and in South America. So if you know of students who are interested in going to those countries, you know, we are not going to do an exchange this year during Sean's year for a long-term exchange. A long-term exchange generally lasts for almost a year, anywhere from 9 months to a year. And next time that we will be sending students out will be in the fall of 2021. For them to be qualified for that, they will need to start filling out their applications this fall. And usually the applications are ready by July or August. I'm just going under the assumption that things are going to work out and that we are going to be able to send students out in the fall of 2021. So that's kind of the premise that I'm going under right now. So if you know of students that are interested in going out, let me know, get me their names, send me their email, or send my email to them, however you want to communicate with them, so that I can get them online, the application's all online, and they can start filling out the application. It's usually due by the middle of December, and they're usually chosen and their country is picked for them by the first part of January. The second program within the youth exchange program is the short-term exchange. Now, the short-term exchange usually takes place over the summer. And the typical way that this works is that a student here decides where they want to go for 3 to 4 weeks, and they turn in an application, and usually those applications are due sometime in March, so they're later than the long-term applications, and they're not as complicated. But the student turns in an application saying that they would like to go, for example, to Italy. We, at the multi-district level, match them with a student of their gender in Italy, generally same interest, same age. And so our student then travels to Italy, stays with that student's family over there, and then they both travel back here and stay with the family back here. So it's a one-on-one exchange. It happens for 3 weeks over there, 3 weeks back here. So that's pretty typical. There are some times when it's a little bit different. Most of the South American countries have a split exchange where our student goes down there over the summer, and then their student comes here sometime in the winter because that's their summer. So that's the 2 exchanges. Like I said, we are moving forward with hoping that these exchanges will take place. The short-term exchange this year is going to be a virtual exchange. It's taking place this summer because of the pandemic issues. I'm assuming and we're hoping that we'll have the typical short-term exchange next summer, but even if we don't, we're still going to take applications and we'll do a virtual exchange at that time. I'm sure there's probably a lot of questions because I'm just really kind of going over the minimum part of it. We'd love to have more clubs involved in both exchanges. We'd love to have more host families. We're almost always looking for host families. If a club would like to sponsor and host a student, we generally require at least 2 to 3 host families. There is quite an application process that goes with that. The club must have a youth exchange officer, a YEO. The club must also provide a counselor, and the counselor must be of the same gender as the student and must agree to meet with them once a month. We also ask for the host families. They do not have to be Rotarians. So the host families can be other individuals in your community. There is quite a process of application, background check, all those things. So we do look very carefully at that before we will place a student in the home. And there's quite a process that we have to follow in order to qualify a family as a host family. One of the things that I've always thought was interesting was that some of the host families, if they're not Rotarians, after they have hosted students, they have decided that, hey, maybe Rotary is a pretty nice organization. And so sometimes they'll come and actually join Rotary after they've hosted. So sometimes it's a good way to introduce students to, or introduce families and people who are qualified to be Rotarians to the idea of being a Rotarian. Let me go on then to the second part of my discussion, and that is the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards program. And next year it will be May 6th to the 8th of 2021. Again, we're hoping that we are able to have it this year, obviously because of the pandemic. Jackson's Mill actually had to cancel all of their programs in May, June, and July, so we were not able to have it this year. So next year, we will still be planning to have it that weekend in May. It is open to 9th grade students, and it cost is $125 per student. And I feel that we've put together over the years, this program's been going on for close to 35 years now. I think we've put together just a fantastic program. It's interesting to watch these 9th grade students come to the program on Friday, and they're all scared to death of each other and what's going on. They don't understand. And by the time they leave on Sunday morning, they're best friends, and they're looking forward to the next time they get together. In the meantime, we've taught them a lot about Rotary. We've taught them about what it means to be a leader in their community and in their school. We've given them a chance to do a service project, because we always do a Rise Against Hunger program now. And the kids get a good bit of material. They get to see the youth exchange students, and we've had several kids that signed up for youth exchange by coming to the RILA program. It will be again at Jackson's Mill, and really, it's not all lecture. I mean, it's kind of get up on your feet, have a good time, hands-on participation. And I think that if you'll talk to the kids after they come back, and they can certainly serve as a program at your Rotary meeting, I think you'll find that they have a really good time, and that they get to know a lot of people. One of the reasons we chose ninth graders is that we wanted to be one of the first things that they attended as a training program. Ninth graders come to RILA, 10th graders go to Hobie, 11th graders go to Boys State and Girls State. So we wanted to kind of be first. And again, we're going to keep the cost at $125 a student. Most of the time, the Rotary Club pays for that. I know some have schools that also pay. So what we like is for you to pick the student however you want to do that. If you want to have the counselors do it, which is the way I typically do it, if you know students that are related to Rotarians that you want to send, I'm happy to have those students come too. We're not necessarily looking for the straight A student. We're looking for the student that shows some potential for leadership, and we just like to help them along their way. So, and we have just a great team of counselors and chaperones, and I think if you saw the program, you'd be very impressed with it. I think both of these programs, Youth Exchange and RILA, are a good use of our money. So if you have any questions about any of these programs, I'll be happy to answer them now, or in the materials that you have, I think it's on page 79, is my name, address, phone number, email, all that. So you can certainly ask me any questions you might have.
Dennis, can I ask you a quick one?
Sure.
I don't want to cut into David's time any more than I have, but because it focuses on ninth grade students, is there a way that for the RILA next year to include the sophomore kids as well in some way, since they missed the opportunity to be able to participate at no fault of their own this past year?
Yeah, I think we're kicking around the idea of either doing, kind of a joint ninth grade, 10th grade. And if we do that, we'll get more information out about that. Either doing that as a joint thing, or we may do like a one-day thing for the 10th graders in the fall, depending on what happens with the pandemic.
Great. Anybody else have any more questions for Dennis about either project?
Yes.
Either
If
program?
I may, for just a moment.
Go right ahead, Ed.
Dennis, as you know, our club the Grafton Club, in the past few years has been able to send multiple students to RILA. Do you anticipate that being true in the future, or will we be limited to how many we can send?
I think what I'm going to do is really kind of open it up, and if people want to send multiple, but I think there's probably going to be a max as far as Jackson's Mill's concerned. So we were kind of discussing that this year and saying that maybe the max would be like 100, maybe 120, something like that.
Well, you've also got some staff concerns too, right? You got to have enough counselors to cover all the ground.
Yeah, I mean it's Jackson's Mill plus counselors plus the whole thing, and there is a point where you have too many people in a room at one time, and it's just difficult to really maintain and to be able to teach much of anything. So there will be a limit, I think, to the total number, but I'm kind of just going to open it up and, let everybody sponsor what they want to. And when we reach that max, well, we'll stop.
Wouldn't that be a good problem to have? We got too many kids interested.
I'd love to have that problem. Definitely.
Well, if there's nothing further for Dennis, batting cleanup for us today is another gentleman who is a friend of mine, a professional colleague of sorts, and a past district governor who has helped me limp along the way to this role. He is with us today as our, not only a PDG, but also as our for 2021, our Polio Plus chair for the district. And if he's ready to go, I've unmuted you on my side, Governor. I give the screen to David Kavner.
Thank you, Sean. Am I on? Hello.
You're good.
Okay, I'm good. Well, first, I apologize for being late. You know the adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't understand any of this Zoom type stuff. I kept trying to getting on, and I'd get advertisements for real estate. I mean, it was getting frustrating. I do apologize. First of all, for president-elects, for other folks, if you know the president-elects and they're not on here, would you please ask that they contact me at cavenderlaw@hotmail.com. That's CAVENDERLAW@hotmail.com. I would ask that every president-elect appoint someone to be my contact. Secondly, if clubs ever get back to having real meetings, I would love to be a program. I'll come down. And part of that is because Polio Plus isn't supposed to be taking away from foundation. I've been a foundation chair, so I'm very sensitive that you're chasing the same dollars, and we should come up with ways so that that isn't the issue. I think Evanston has asked that each club contribute $45 per member for Polio Plus. I would like to come and brainstorm with ways you could obtain that without it just being, billing a member $45. Because at the same time, we're wanting your members to give at least $100 a year to foundation. I just got off a Zoom meeting at noon today at the zone level where the discussion was Polio Plus. I'll just give you a few figures that I had written down while in that meeting. Since 1985, we have immunized 3 billion children. We are paired with 5 other organizations for polio. The Bill Gates Trust, the World Health Organization, the Center for Disease Control, UNICEF, an entity called GALVI, G-A-L-V-I, which is, quote, the Vaccine Alliance. Right at the moment, we are not immunizing children. Polio Plus has a tremendous infrastructure throughout the world. And that infrastructure has been lent to the COVID-19 campaign. And so they're delivering personal protection equipment. They're repairing the oh shoot, what we didn't have enough of, and Governor Cuomo wanted 10,000 of the
Ventilators.
pardon?
Ventilators.
The ventilators. Yeah, they're working with getting ventilators into these countries. At the same time, they are doing in testing for COVID-19. They're also trying to track for the polio virus. But needless to say, and we have always had what was called National Immunization Day, NIDs, where Rotarians could go to India, to Nigeria, which, by the way, is supposed to be declared polio free this summer, to Pakistan, and participate in immunizing children. Because of COVID-19, those trips have been postponed until further notice. Right now, we do still have 2 countries with that are not polio free, Afghanistan and Pakistan. This all started in 1985 when Rotary said we want to take on polio, and we first went to the Philippines. And the World Health Organization and the CDC said, you won't be successful. There's no way that you're going to rid the world of polio. And since then, we have rid all but 2 countries of the wild polio virus. The goal is to immunize every child under the age of 5 in the world. And of course, even though all these other countries no longer have polio, we have to still be going back and immunizing new children, as they're born. So it is an ongoing program. I was amazed to find out that we had such a structure in place. And again, that structure is being used right now to combat against COVID-19. So I will mention the individual at Evanston who's in charge. She's the director of Polio Plus. His name is Carol Pandak. Her email address is CAROL period PANDAK at Rotary.org. And I'm aware that money's going to be tough this year, but I would like to work with you. I would like for you to give me a contact so I can work with that person. As a president, you're so inundated. You need to delegate things to other individuals. And if you could get me that information, then I'll contact that person and see what we can do to, once you do have in-life meetings. I'm not real, needless to say, the Zoom is a totally new ballgame for me, and I have a lot of difficulty with it, but do what we can. Thank you, Sean.
Anybody have any questions for David? Well, let me expand on something that he said, and this is primarily at the presidents-elect that are on the call. We've got one more call left in 2 weeks, and basically it's going to be a catch-up, clean-up opportunity to, address any questions that you feel that you still have that haven't been answered over the course of the last 5 calls. So I plan on sending out a brief survey to all the clubs so that we can gather some intel on how often you all are meeting, in what fashion you are meeting, what your plan is moving forward. If you've got any of those kinds of gathering / COVID questions, I'll do my best to answer those, because come July 1st, in one way or another, I would like to keep my feet on the ground running with official visits to each of the clubs, whether that be in this fashion or otherwise. I leave that up to the club. Timing wise, to a certain extent, I want to leave that up to the club as well. They can be either club meetings, they can be regional meetings, and include more than one club at one time for convenience sake, financial reasons, whatever the case may be. I want that to be an option, but the district is about supporting the clubs and not the other way around. So with as much latitude as the district can afford to the clubs to make the decisions themselves, that's what I am very much in favor of doing. I don't want the district or myself in my role or any of the others to ever feel like big brother or an imposition of some sort. The district is here to assist the clubs, and that is precisely what I want the message to be moving forward. So that survey is going to go out. It's going to be asking for that kind of information. I would encourage all of the presidents-elect on the call to use the time between now and then to go to the Learning Center and see if there's any questions that could be answered that way. Encourage your club leadership team to go to their respective parts of the Learning Center, gather as much information as they can, because they will have their opportunity to ask their own questions at the district assembly, which is going to be strictly virtual, like Pets has ended up being for all of us. That is going to be on Saturday, June the 27th. The DAC registration, obviously it's going to be free, which is a benefit to everybody. It's going to be broken down into segments so that you don't have to log on and stay on there for a 4-hour long call when your role in the club may only be discussed for 30 or 45 minutes of that time period. So we're going to break it down into different topics and subjects. So your club secretary can get on for this part of the call, your treasurer get on this part, your polio plus chair gets on for that part, so on and so forth. And like I said, more information will be coming out, I hope, this week on the DAC calendar. Same with the installation. I know that in the past it's been called the district governor installation. Well, that's a very small part of it. That installation is not only designed to rah me as your incoming governor, it's to recognize all the leaders that are entering into their new role starting July the 1st. That's the district leadership team, that's the assistant governors, and that is certainly you all as your club president. So if you haven't seen my email yet that I sent to everyone, it asked for you to send me back confirmation if your contact information, especially your mailing address, is accurate on DACDB, because that's what I will hope to be able to use. So if it is, great. If it's not, I'd ask you to go in there and correct it, because I'm going to be sending you some physical materials to have in your hand that I would ordinarily be presenting you with at the installation itself. But since it's going to be virtual on Friday evening, June the 26th at 7 p.m., I want you to have what it is that I would have given you in person. And then through some camera trickery, we're going to make it look like, oh, and look, our governor gave us this. And, oh, how nice is the governor? He's such a wonderful guy. Look what he gave me, So I want you to have that stuff in advance of that so that you have it. You all are the backbone of what it is that we all intend to be doing, and I'm just here to help. So I like to recognize credit where it is due, and you all should be prepared for your various pats on the back that you will certainly be getting from me moving forward. The other thing that I'll mention is next Monday, June the 8th at noon, David mentioned the fact that there's a zone call. It is going to be one of the remaining few that they're going to do moving towards July 1st. But next Monday's on June the 8th at noon, our incoming international president, Holger Knock, is going to do his own installation of me and the other governors elect in our zones 33 and 34 pair. Quite cool, I think. It's not anything that's been done before and hopefully won't ever have to be done. in the future as the world hopefully returns to whatever normal ends up being. But that's going to be a thing. My class is called the Flamingos. There's 31 of us that span all the way from southwestern Pennsylvania all the way down into the Caribbean, and we're all going to be on the call. We're all going to be wearing our flamingo pink and our flashing light pins, and you're welcome to come participate if you'd like. That'll be on DAC as well. The other thing that we're getting ready to do for the people who aren't able to take advantage of participating live in these calls, I have been putting them on Google Drive and sending folks the email invites to be able to access those. Our district is starting here in the next few weeks going to have its own YouTube channel so that you can go to YouTube and pick up on all of these past discussions and recordings and video meetings and Zooms and everything else. And it will probably be an efficient way to deliver messages to everyone in the district moving forward for as long as we have to do it this way. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. Anybody have any questions for anybody else on the call? Otherwise, I have again, as usual, lied. It has gone an hour and 8 minutes. I apologize for the brief spillover, but I thank everybody for hanging in there. We've got a great turnout today. I want to thank everyone that presented their own topics. I appreciate you all spending your time, all of you, doing this. I hope you will find that it has been beneficial to do that as we move forward. I've got a couple of messages here in the chat. Brian had asked about how we can go about getting club-specific foundation giving money. That certainly runs parallel with polio. And I'm going to try to get the answer to his question, then I'll give it to everybody once I do. The other question is not really a question, but Kathleen, I hope it's okay that I share this. Morgantown North is going to start meeting in person very soon, it says. That's a good thing to see. I know that Westover is actually having a live in-person meeting tonight for their club meeting. So, you know, I think we'll start to see things re-evolve. And if you have any troubles or concerns or questions or need anything along the way, please feel free to reach out to me. You've also got the district leadership team contact information in your materials that were sent. If you see something that's topic specific, that person has already agreed by virtue of inclusion on the team as being someone who would welcome your questions. Just feel free to reach out to whomever it is you think that can best answer what it is that your concern is. So anybody have anything else for the day?
Hey, Sean, it's Jeff. Hang on with me after, and
Sure.
I can give you a little insight about the foundation listing and polio listings.
Okay, great. I see Brian, you're still on the call. He's muted, but there's somebody who hopefully will give me the answer to that question sooner. All right, and I'll be sure to get it to you. Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Okay, otherwise, thank you all. It's great to see you, hear you, mute you, whatever it is we've done to you today. I will see you all hopefully in 2 weeks, and we will wrap up PATS for the year that way. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.